Yeah.
You can have a seat.
Oh, really? Good afternoon. We thank you for being here today. On yesterday, we received some critical information about the indictment of an agent, Nikki Autry, involved in the botched raid back in Habersham County on May 28th of last year. And we have three other people who are going to speak with you. Obviously, you can see Miss Alicia Poncevan, who is Skyping with us from her home in Wisconsin. And we also have two of the people who we believe have been absolutely instrumental in making this happen. And it is our position that what has happened is something that we have not seen happen very often. It is difficult, and it has been very difficult for those of us that work as civil rights attorneys and as civil and human rights activists. It has been very difficult for us to obtain justice or even indictment for police misconduct. And so on today, we are very excited and optimistic, more optimistic than we have been throughout this process over the last over a year now, that there may and will be justice for baby Boo Boo and the Poncevan family. And so we wanted to take a moment to give our reaction to this indictment because of how significant this is for both this family and for those of us who do this work on a daily basis and struggle to try to hold the powerful accountable and those that are in places of power and authority, to make sure that they don't abuse that authority and they don't take advantage of poor Black, brown, and poor people. And that's what this has been about. And so we first want to thank everyone who has, all across the country, literally around the world, they have been supportive of this family. And I want to remind people how this family was really demonized as being responsible for their own, for the injury that their child suffered. I don't want anyone to forget how they were blamed, how people posted negative things about them, how even the grand jury report from Habersham said that they placed their child in this danger. And I know that without no uncertain terms, that the indictment yesterday says to them, somebody understands and somebody realizes that we were not at fault here, and that the folks that were at fault will ultimately be held accountable. And so we want to send a message to families all across the country who are struggling to fight against injustice. Don't give up the fight. That's right. Don't give up the fight. Keep up the fight. Community organizers, keep organizing. Conscientious political leaders, remain diligent and vigilant. And families, know that you are not alone. And that if we continue to work together, that we can see justice in our lifetime. And that's what we hope people will take away from what happened on yesterday in terms of this indictment, to at least encourage people to keep up the fight. At this time, I would like to bring up the family spokesperson, Marcus Coleman, who has worked across the country with families. He has made it his a personal mission, and his organization, Saving Ourselves, and his work as the co-founder of the Atlanta chapter of National Action Network. All of this work has culminated in his level of activism that has really led to this, at least one minor victory in this ongoing fight. And so I would just invite up Marcus Coleman to give his thoughts and reflections about what this indictment means for the Poncevan family, for him, and for our ongoing movement for justice as it relates to police misconduct and accountability. Mr. Coleman.
Good afternoon, Alicia. Good afternoon. As an activist, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a politician. I'm a diehard activist. And it feels good to be in a position of the people, leading from within, the sides, the rear, or in the front, when the justice system works as it's supposed to. Okay. I'm not going to take too much time. I just want to speak to just a couple of points. Number one, it is the failed grand jury process here in this country. If it was not for the family, for myself, Attorney Davis, Senator Fort, and many others who would not lay down, who would not give up, who would not rest with the grand jury's decision of a no bill. I want that to be very clear. If we let it end there, you would not be before us today. If we let it end there, Mrs. Bozeman would not be before you today giving her thoughts on how she felt. This particular decision highlights a failed grand jury process here in this country. Why do I say that? Because there was a no bill and there were no charges to be held, no one to be held accountable. It speaks to this system when the federal government steps in and does the job that a local jurisdiction should be able to do. I think Attorney Horn made a comment saying that there is no arrest so great that you should be willing to sacrifice the integrity of the law. To Mrs. Archer, you have done us a great service by confirming what activists like myself and activist attorneys like Maoli Mel Davis and activist public servants like Senator Vincent Fort say all the time. Your actions dilute the potency of your former profession. Your actions help other leaders across the country to continue to push, continue to fight for justice. When one door gets slammed in your face, kick that door open because there's another one behind it. You must continue to push. You must continue to stay diligent. And you must continue to go with vengeance when in the face of injustice. I'm very happy for this family. We've been with this family for a very long time. To U.S. Attorney Horn, I would like to send a message. We say thank you. We say thank you for having the courage to step up where some U.S. attorneys across the country have not. We do not see this often here in this country. Usually, federal investigations, they either fall on deaf ears or they're muted under the silence of this false investigation. So again, we say thank you. To all the activists out there, we just say keep pushing, stay diligent, use the Bozeman family, use Baby Boo Boo's case as an example, as a beacon to never stop fighting for justice. All power to the people.
At this time, we'd like to bring up the state senator who accompanied the family, accompanied us throughout this process, and went in with acting U.S. Attorney John Horn when we had that meeting. And he was very clear and direct in the issues that he raised because of his experience having gone and been involved like this before with a number of very high-profile police misconduct cases. And he came in with wisdom, with the vigilance and the tenacity that we have come to know him. State Senator Vincent Fort.
Thank you, Attorney Davis. I will say this in reaction to the federal indictment that was handed down yesterday. In a sentence, I want to say that I'm gratified, but at the same time, I'm not satisfied with where we are. I'm gratified that a federal grand jury found evidence of police misconduct in Habersham County. I'm gratified that an indictment has been brought down. From my experience for going back to 2006 with the Catherine Johnston murder, I knew, and I said in my meeting with the U.S. Attorney, in our meeting with the U.S. Attorney, that ultimately somebody lied to that magistrate. Somebody gave false information to that magistrate. Now, ironically, the Habersham County grand jury knew that. Ray Charles could have seen it. And the Habersham County grand jury didn't do its duty. It didn't do its duty by the people of Habersham County or the Fonsafon family. That's why what happened yesterday with the grand jury indictment is so gratifying. That the things we have been talking about, the things that were obvious, have shown to be valid, legitimate issues of inquiry. Now, this is only one step, and we have many more steps to go. There's a prosecution, maybe a trial, a verdict. And so we have a long ways to go, but this is a gratifying step. But even beyond this one trial or this one case, we have more things to do even beyond that. We have to look at the state capitol under the Gold Dome, the need for grand jury reform, yes, the need for no-knock warrant reform. So the struggle continues. It is a struggle that emanates from the community, from the legislative halls and the courtroom. And it's a multi-front approach that we must engage in. Our communities demand it, and the Fonsafon family demands it in their pursuit of justice. So I just want to really recognize this law firm, Attorney Davis in particular, but the Davis-Bozeman law firm, Marcus Coleman. I want to recognize him because he has stood by this family. As Attorney Davis said, he stood by this family when people were skeptical and blamed the victim. And we, as always, I'm going to end by saying we keep this family in our prayers. We keep this family in our prayers, in particular Baby Boo Boo, because we know Baby Boo Boo could have been any one of our children. And we know that he faces some long, difficult days ahead. So we recognize this family for their courage and their grace and their dignity. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Ford has to leave to go to the Capitol. Are there any questions directly for Senator Ford that he can answer at this time before we introduce Ms. Ponsavon? Are there any questions that you all have for Senator Ford?
You're gonna let me off easy, huh? I don't know.
Just today.
You need to repeat the question and the mic after they ask for it.
Okay. At this time, we want to clarify a couple things as it relates to Ms. Ponsavon appearing via Skype. First of all, she cannot comment about anything as it relates to any of the civil litigation. Her only purpose here is to just address her reaction to the indictment of Agent Nikki Autry, and that will be a fairly limited. She's going to say some things and then answer what she can. If she can't answer it, then I will assist, or Mr. Coleman will assist. I do want to take a moment and just acknowledge the very hard work of Attorney Candace McKinley and of my law partner Robert Bozeman, who couldn't be here, and all of the entire firm that has been working and spending a lot of time with this family over the past year. And Cynthia Williams has been was there very early on when this family was living out of a hotel and having to figure out how they were going to eat, how they were going to travel back and forth to the hospital. When they didn't know whether or not their child was going to live or die, there were a team of people who have been there for them. And so for that team, this is a very gratifying moment. It affirms that what we did was not in vain, but that we still have work to do, as Senator Ford stated. And so it's our hope that other activists and organizers around the country will continue to work with firms to do this work and to try to make sure that injustices just don't go without consequence. And so with that, Alicia, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Alicia, if you would just give your thoughts about this most recent development with respect to this indictment of Nikki Autry.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who has prayed for us. And God bless you all for your support. It really means a lot. You know, my husband and I didn't think anyone other than our team would fight for my family and I. And my husband's unable to be with me today because he is still in a lot of pain with his recovery from his surgery. Boo Boo and the rest of our family, we just try to take it one day at a time. And this is a good start towards going for justice finally.
We'll take questions from Ms. Pontavon regarding this, and I'll repeat the question. Alicia, how is baby Boo Boo?
Boo Boo's doing okay. He's still got a long way to go. You know, at any point in his life, he won't be out of the woods. He's got many surgeries ahead of him.
How many surgeries has he had at this point, Alicia?
He has completed his 12th surgery.
And his next surgery will be scheduled in the next, several months, next few months?
Yes, we had to wait for Boo Boo to be able to take a break from surgeries before my husband could get his shoulder fixed finally after a year. And once my husband's shoulder is healed well enough to the point to where he can bear weight on it, then Boo Boo will be having his 13th surgery.
Alicia, the question is, will Boo Boo ever be able to live, quote unquote, a normal life? Can you describe what the next, 10 or 15 years will be like for him, please?
He's still looking at multiple surgeries throughout his life to repair the damage. My husband and I try and make his life as normal and happy as possible. Some of the surgeries that he's looking at later on in life could be a little more devastating to him, maybe a little tougher. But we are not going to let anything prevent us from giving him the life that he deserves. Or the rest of our children, for that matter, who also suffer emotionally and mentally.
Alicia, the question is, what would your message be to the agent who made these lies up and misled the magistrate, the judge that led to all of this? What would your message, if you could say one thing to her?
One more time, I'm sorry.
What would you say to the agent who misled the magistrate in this way, which led to all of what has happened to you? What would your message be to her if you could speak to her right now?
You know, that's something I've thought of before, and I don't want to sound mean, but she really ruined a family's life, you know? Just by not doing her job correctly, not taking the time and doing what she was supposed to properly. And then to mislead information purposely for what kind of gain on her own, I have no idea. But it has really put a family through a lot of torture and a nightmare that we have to live every day.
Any other questions? We would like to just again remind everyone, and I stated it earlier, but I just want, and Senator Porter stated, and I think Marcus has stated it, but we just want to underscore, there have been a lot of things said about this family via social media, throughout the media. There has just been a lot said about this family, and it's our hope that the federal investigation that has really made clear that they were not wrong. This family was not wrong for just trying to live, but that other people were responsible for what happened to their baby. We just want folks who, all of those mean-spirited posts about this mother and this family, we want them to think before they condemn. We want them to think before they judge, because clearly this family was misjudged by so many and blamed and re-victimized. To have to fight for your good name while you're fighting for the life of your child is more than most of us could bear. But they have done that with great dignity. They have done it with respect for their family. And we just want, again, people to think about what you're saying before you just accuse someone of being wrong. And I hope that in many ways, Alicia, and I'm speaking to you right now, you feel vindicated, that when a proper investigation is done, that the truth has come out, and it was not about you, it was not about your husband, it was really about this law enforcement agency who acted outside of the law. Is Boo Boo around at all?
Yes.
Can they see Boo Boo?
Yes, I will grab him real quick.
Okay. Unfortunately, because we're still in litigation, we can't comment on any of the civil litigation. And we have, tried to just focus on this criminal component, and we've been working on this part in conjunction with the civil litigation.
I remember, I think it was a year ago now, with the medical bills, originally they said they were going to pay it. Have you been able to clear any of that up, or how has the family been?
Well, that's all a part of civil litigation. We're working through it.
Here we go, big boy. You're gonna kiss. Love you.
Hey, Boo Boo, how you doing?
Look, can you say hi? Hi. Wait.
All right, good. We see you, big man. All right, everybody's praying for you, okay?
Hi. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Tell Dad we said hello.
Hello.
All right. Thank you, Alicia.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate it.
Mama? Mr. Davis, Marcus? Yeah.
That's it.